The Grade Cricketer is a Twitter stream. It's about playing cricket at the grade level.
Boys! Get a few today, did you?
To be honest with you, I hate grade cricket.
I went into to play for a team called, the name escaped me.
Obviously, sharing's always a big issue for young kids coming into a senior cricket team.
I think it was like a wet sleeve.
A bit of advice to the player. That's what I want.
I refer to the Great Cricketer here and I'll say, this'll do a little bit early.
Hello and welcome to the Great Cricketer Podcast. On today's show, with the Australian-Indian series levelled at 1-1, both teams get into some psychological warmongering. 5 Indians just want to go for a succulent Chinese meal in Melbourne, but did Rishant Pant get a hug afterwards? Has David Warner earned the right just to play SCG home test now, as his groin comes under more scrutiny than a thirsty DM slide? Who opens the batting? Does head play? How do you play Ashwin? Who the fuck would go to the SCG now? And will they even go to Brisbane? New Zealand are the #1 test team in the world. So we ask, what grade would some of their teammates play in Australia? There's Williamson hundreds, Dean Elgar tons, Jamieson bags, and South Africa's got a newfound wheel. Calum Ferguson's on the show to talk about the highs and lows of his career, the IPL, the Big Bash, and being run out on his test debut. Glenn McGrath is on the show to discuss the McGrath Foundation and how we can all get around the pink test from the safety of our homes. Hashtag RCDSC begins with a chestnut incident and ends with a softball premiership. This episode is brought to you by Budgie Smuggler, where you can get everything you'll ever need for your pandemic summer of your lives. Use the code CHAMP at checkout. That's budgiesmuggler.com. You can also check out our Patreon at patreon.com/Grade Cricket for more exclusive content every single week. My name is Ian Higgins. I'm joined by Sam Perry. Pezzy Lau. Happy New Year to you and to yours.
Thank you, and back to you and all those things.
That I own.
That you own and beyond.
Right, Pez. Now, you may have caught this, but James Anderson was denied a knighthood through fear of being sledged by the Australian cricket team. Now, I don't have a knighthood, nor have I played cricket for Australia, despite some myths that I'm trying to circulate through the internet. Do you have any great sledging stories from grade cricket or any test matches that you might have played?
Well, I thought about this, and like I'm worried that I think I've told a few of them on the show. Like, got sledged hard by Phil Jakes.
Yeah,
I told that story. Got sledged quite hard in 3rd grade by a high-profile current administrator in the game, who said "fuck off" back to Balmain.
Yep.
And I was pleased that
You
I'd
were
been
wrapped.
remembered.
Yeah.
Trying to think of some others. One had been mentioned early in the show, like early in TGC's time at Fox Sports. So a mate of mine was playing against Easts, and he'd also been bowling with the New South Wales team in the nets. He was a net bowler, he was sort of in and around the squad a little bit, playing for Balmain against Easts, who had Brad Haddon. And amid all of his time playing and training with New South Wales, he'd managed to acquire, as is your want at his level, Brad Haddon's stick.
Of course.
They played a semi-final against Easts, and then he was dismissed.
Yeah.
And as he was walking off, Brad Haddon said, "Put my stick back in my bag." I read one the other day as we were exploring Stuart McGill's early grade cricket career. He played at WA, but then he played in Sydney.
That's right, yeah.
And I read a story, I think it was from Jason Holley, friend of the show. It might have been Matthew Bradley. A Sutherland stalwart told this story about Stuart McGill bowling to a tail ender, some poor bloke coming out to face Stuart McGill, and McGill's basically bowled one that's just ripped past the outside edge of the right-hander's bat, just missed off stump. Next one's pitched outside leg, just missed the off stump. Third one's pitched outside again, at leg again, clips the off bail. And McGill says, "That's the best 3 balls you'll ever face, motherfucker." There's something.
McGill's king.
Yeah.
McGill's king.
Anything?
I was thinking about this in the relation to the James Anderson thing, like he was scared of being sledged, and I wondered if there's an element here where the higher you get, the more professional you get, the more bored the players get, so they just start having to sledge. Because I can't really think of a story in any. I played grade for 13 years or something, and I can't think of a story, an anecdote which is worthy of discussion, other than the blur of just being called a fuckwit, shit, you're a cunt, I slept with someone in your family.
Oh.
That kind of
That's
gear.
even bizarrely specific as well.
Yeah.
Which serves your point, because it's all just a big cesspool of swear words.
My memory was just this cacophony of like play and miss, like way.
Yeah, just noises.
Just fucking.
It's a
noises.
symphony of noise.
It's like being in a zoo.
Yes.
Like, and just there's some chirping. There's a fucking elephant in the background. Bears doing a thing. What's that penguin doing?
Sometimes you're waiting to go into bat and you think there's no sound out there because there might be a bit of wind or something. Oh, it looks quite friendly and quiet and you like that. And you go out there and sometimes there is chat, but you can't quite hear it. You can just hear the low register of someone's voice saying something mildly abusive towards you and you don't know what it is.
Yeah, sometimes you would hear the vibrations. You would feel the vibrations in your direction and you would be caught up in the cacophony of those vibrations.
Someone else laughs after that as well. Like, oh, what did they say?
Yeah. But then, like, if you don't hear it, then your curiosity gets the better of you, wanting to be like, what do you say?
Well, yeah, but you can't look. You don't want to look. You don't want to move your eyes that way.
It's like any bowl. Don't turn around.
Great article we're going to talk about by Adam Burnett in cricket.com.au about Stuart Law and Shane Watson. And one bit from that was Stuart Law saying, I was just sledging and I knew that if he looked at me, if he turned his head, that I'd have him. So in that vein, like as a great cricketer, like you can't turn in the direction of the sledger. And meanwhile, you've just probably come out to bat. You're trying to take centre. You're scraping your spikes on the ground. The wind's whipping through your grill. It's not affixed properly, so you can hear the little metal rattling around. Then you can hear just a low register of a 27-year-old unemployed guy saying something out of the side of his mouth. Someone's laughing at it, and you can't look at it. Yeah. All this shit going on before you faced a ball.
Pez, I'm gonna, what's the one question that we as incoming batsmen want to know? That we could be batting. Let's say you and I are batting 5 and 6.
Okay.
Outcoming batsman's the opening batsman. You know, it's a great pace attack. You know, you're aware of a great pace attack. It's seaming, doing bit. It's going through the chest.
That's right. This will be a test for my technique outside off bail.
What's the one question you want to know from that outgoing batsman?
Much chat out there?
That's all we want to know.
Will I be forced to absorb a level of a symphony of abuse without being able to look at it?
Yeah, exactly.
While trying to affect technical skills that I've not been able to affect for a long time.
You've been thinking about this moment all week. You've been in the nets. You have an extra hit during the week on a Wednesday for some reason. Extra throwdowns, front foot press, trigger movement, squirrel grips, fucking all this shit. Much chat out there?
Yeah.
That's all we want to know. Pez, what's happening?
So they were right not to...
fuck yeah, they were right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And the good thing is, because they haven't done that, now Australia they won't be able to use this ever again. What's happening on Patreon this week, Pez? Something is happening on Patreon this week.
We had a wonderful chat with Peter Hatzaglou, or Pete Hatzaglou. Those who saw our promotion of that conversation will have noted that underneath that promotion was about 35 to 40 blokes writing Peter, because he was referred to as Pete.
Yeah.
Now, I'm about to say something, and I haven't even shared this with you. I wrote to Peter Hatzaglou afterwards, and I said, man, I don't know what the fuck's going on here. I don't know if we've caused you an issue by calling you Pete, and that's a thing your mates are doing.
Yeah.
But I apologise, and I really enjoyed the chat.
Yeah.
And he wrote back, and I was going to read his text.
Who's this?
Yeah, well, firstly that. I don't reply to message requests.
Yeah.
Right. Oh no, mate, it's this fucking bizarre thing that people do on social media. Any post that's associated with me is accompanied by comments saying, Peter, so strange, but I'll take the publicity. Here for a good time, not a long time, baby.
Fuck yeah.
So have a listen to that.
He's great, man.
He was a great chat. He was great gear.
I'm going to insert a little couple of minutes here from that chat right now. You're going to hear that right now.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool.
Is it reassuring that the BBL are also using third grade umpires this season?
I don't know if I'm allowed to say anything about that.
No, you can. It's
umpiring's a hard job.
Yeah.
Umpiring's a hard job.
Played.
We'll leave it at that.
Well played. well played. I mean, how is it to like? I mean, you've obviously made the level and you're doing really well. But I mean, how do you act like natural around your heroes that you're sort of playing with and against? You know, you're playing with guys that you probably watched on TV growing up and still watch on TV now. I mean, do you want to like ask for their jerseys, like get guys like sign your bat, but you also kind of want them to respect you as well? It must be like quite a hard like balance. Also, that'd be really amazing if you started to walk out to bat with a signed bat from Ricky Ponting.
There's something in that. No, yeah, it is crazy. There's it's funny because there are times where I think about that and I get a bit of stage fright almost. And then there are other times. The other day when we were playing the Sixers, I went up to Gurinder Sandhu and I said, mate, you've got a really chiseled face. And that was just me not thinking. He does.
He does.
He does have a chiseled face.
Had you said hello to him yet? Or?
Yeah, no, I didn't. That was me just not really thinking, not really filtering. And Kane Richardson and I have spoken about filtering and that.
What's he said to you?
It didn't work.
No, he was like, mate, he's taking the piss, and I was like, no, I just think he's got a good, like a nice face. Yeah. Really, really nice face, and
nice face.
Yeah.
He and I get along really well now. On Christmas Day, he came up to me and said, Merry Christmas, and yeah. So everyone's a normal guy. Well, most people are normal, and that's been the I suppose the best thing about playing with your heroes now. They're all normal. They're all normal people.
Yeah.
And they're all they're not what you might think they are on TV.
And that's at patreon.com/grade cricketer. All right, Pez. Australia-India third test at the Sydney Cricket Ground is where they're going to play the game. Where should we start with this? Let's start with how it wrapped up in Melbourne, where just 5 chaps just wanted to go out for a nice meal, a succulent Chinese meal. And who amongst us does not want to ever go out for a succulent Chinese meal? Got himself into a bit of hot water, though.
And a dear friend of mine, whose name is Chris Gale, not the Chris Gale, of Fire Up Rugby League fame, a couple of shows on Triple M, he referred to them as the Chadstone 5. And so they should be referred to as the Chadstone 5, because I think we've pointed out, yes, there are problems facing Bumrah and Ashwin. Yeah. Yes, we've been strangleholded to the point where we won't be able to score runs. So something else needs to happen in order to get over the top of this Indian side, and Chadstone 5 is it. Yes. I don't know. It sounds like it's gone away real quick. I don't know if there's a connection between the Chadstone 5, them not being keen to play in Brisbane, and all of this just going away.
I love the language of we're not keen.
Yeah.
Because none of us are keen.
None
of us are keen. We just do this because we have to, for some reason.
Well, this came from a report from colleague of ours, Bharat Sundaresan from Crick Buzz, and it was a quote that he ran from the Indian camp, but an unattributed quote, which is a quote. So someone said it, but they've said, I don't want my name attached to this.
I got a few of those in grade cricket.
Oh, hell yeah.
Couple of lockdowns.
That's my entire DMs.
Couple of lock-ins.
And yeah, it was just the idea that like we are being treated like animals in a zoo. Everybody else gets, look, I'm paraphrasing, everyone else gets to kick around and have relative freedom in this country. We're performing like animals in a zoo without any kind of similar freedoms. And therefore we're not keen to go to the Gabbatoir.
We're not keen to the place where everyone loses. I take that point. I like, just to go back to the Chadstone 5 though, Pez,
please,
very briefly. The guy who paid the bill, he said that it was great. It was great to see the Indian team in there. I paid the bill and I hugged Rishant Pant. Just shows a huge sign of appreciation. And that was like, well, you hugged him. You can't hug Rishant Pant. He's in the bubble. Then it sort of kicked off being like, well, these guys have to quarantine. And then he did a tweet and he was like, sorry, my mistake. I was excited. I got a bit carried away. I didn't hug him. Yeah. It's like 2 things. First of all, I've never paid. No one's ever bought me a meal, and I'm like, well, I'm going to give you a hug now. But that's more about me. That's my thing.
Yeah, you keep saying that. I mean, I feel like it's a lovely response from Pant. Really, it's not weird. It's like, oh, thanks so much, man. Just hug.
You're going to give him a hug.
Yeah, I mean, that's just an affectionate thing to do, and it reveals more about your fragile masculinity.
Hey, it's toxic. Second of all, then a weird thing to make up.
Yeah. I like that as well. It's like, oh, you know how I said that they hugged me? I just got a bit caught up because Lord knows when I get caught up, I start saying that people hugged me. What I meant by that was that he didn't touch me at all. We were socially distanced. Yes.
We had 3.5 minutes of missionary. It was very polite.
And
so there's that.
Yeah.
But I agree with you, Pez. I think it all sort of it felt all very wrapped up in like, don't really want to go to Brisbane. Now you're saying like we have to quarantine 5 of our guys. What if they can't play?
Chadstone 5 felt a bit beat up here to me. Had a little bit of a beat. Came out from a couple of journos, bit of mischief. Oh, these guys have been broken quarantine.
But great. It gave Nathan Lyon a chance to say, fucking suck it up.
Yeah.
Which is great.
And it just adds to a little bit of intrigue. I just want to say this is, we have complained in this country for decades, often beyond, like possibly beyond our even how long we've been alive for.
About the NBN.
About the NBN. It had to be fibre to the premise.
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't matter if I did it on the back. Yeah.
Decades.
not fibre to the node. No, we've complained for so long about one-sided test series over here in Australia on flat wickets, right?
Yeah.
Now, what has this series thrown up so far? It's thrown up great contests between 1 and 2 on good wickets for once in our godforsaken
Because they
lives.
fucked the AFL off.
Yep.
Yeah.
And now we're complaining after having lost one test match about the talent system being fucked, about the fact we can't score any runs. And now there's one, and this series gets even better. There's now wonderful political intrigue around it. Just a little bit, just a little spring, a little bit of Salt Bay of political intrigue. It's a fucking great series.
Mate, this is why partially this podcast exists. Actually, it more exists because of the Shane Watson, Stuart Law thing, if anything. It actually exists more because of that. But like, there's just this dead week in the year. Okay, yeah, there's 8 Big Bash games on a day, I think.
Yeah.
Trying to catch up
Just
with the knees. But there's this week in the cricket where nothing's happening. So there's been like 9 stories of intrigue being like, oh, they won't want to fucking go. Suck it up, bitches.
Yeah.
Oh, you having dinner, are you? He hugged him.
3 months ago, Coley went to a chemist.
This doesn't happen in other countries. I fucking love it. I'm sick
good.
for it.
Just a little bit of political intrigue leading into like what should be a cracking test match. And I feel, look, there's a lot of things about Sydney that I don't feel sorry for, particularly at the moment, but I do feel sorry for Sydney that the one time they get a test that's a live kicking that you'd want to go to. This is the test I'd want to go to for like in Sydney of the last couple of decades.
Yeah.
It's looking like it's going to be pretty difficult to go to.
Yeah.
And for decent reason.
Decent reason. Now it was going to be 24,000 capacity, and now it's going to be 10,000. So I think SCG takes between 40 and 50. It's actually getting close to 50 these days because of the new stands. But now it's going to be 10,000 people. Now, I've got to say, it feels like there's going to be 10,000 COVID deniers going to the cricket because I don't know why you would go still. So I know, like, you got to put this in context because obviously, like, now we should say that we're recording this a few hours after Boris Johnson has just announced the 7-week lockdown in the UK.
Hard lockdown. 4 reasons to leave.
And that's fucking really grim. And I feel really sorry for you guys in the UK because, I mean, obviously we record this in Melbourne now. And how long? We were in a similar stage, maybe a little bit longer than that. And it was really, really grim. You guys are in the middle of winter. It's much hard. Like all that stuff. It sucks. And in Sydney, there's a very small cluster broken out. But in the Australian context, we're freaking out a bit because things have always been pretty good here. It's actually quite in relation to like how spoiled we are generally. That like cricket, we just win every game. Here we've lost one game. Who's going to bat 6?
Yeah, mate, we're one test loss away from an Argus review.
So I put this in the context of, okay, there's not that many cases in Australia in relation to the population of the city.
You've outlined that.
Right.
You've done well.
And there's 10,000 people allowed to go. But I'm still like, why the fuck would you go? I'm not that desperate. Boys watch it on TV. It's good.
Mate, I totally see what you mean. And my observation from the last few weeks of like rank and distressing partisanship between each state around which state has done it
grim.
right. Really grim, particularly when you're from kind of both areas.
Yes.
And just understand that the culture war stops at nothing. Everything is understood through the culture war and political ideology. But like how one feels about going to the SCG seems to be related to what your experience of the virus has been. So in Melbourne, we lived here for 5 months in very, very hard lockdown.
Right.
So although they're doing pretty well in Sydney, they've managed it in a very different way with great health system. They're always on top of it, contact tracing. I could understand why people in Sydney are like, no, it's all been pretty good here all along. When you've lived in Melbourne for 5 months in fucking hard-ass lockdown, you're like, oh, I don't want to jeopardise anything, frankly. I don't want to go.
Yeah,
why would I go?
That's true.
Why would I bother when we've sort of come so far?
Right.
But there are some people in Sydney who I understand will be like, well, it's all worked out pretty well so far, and if it kicks off a little bit, well, they tend to be able to get on top of it. A lot of moving pieces, super complex. But, you know, the SCG said that crowds are all good, but they best not chant or scream. So you just got to wear your mask and just not make any noise.
Hell of a day out.
Yeah, really good.
How much are those tickets?
Must
$300.
really love your cricket.
Got to be really keen for the cricket. Okay, let's get into some selection stuff here, Pez.
Yeah.
So Warner's back, it looks like. Warner will play, but he said he probably won't play the Gabba. So he's just getting to that stage of his career where he's just going to play the home games now.
There's an article today titled Diamond Dave. Like, this period out has just absolutely rocketed him in terms of record. Mate, look, we're going to get into this later, but, like, because of the circumstances of this series, we talk about the right kind of runs all the time on this show. 100 from any of these guys will be the most righteous runs made on this land.
Fuck yeah.
For a very long time.
Fuck yeah.
David Warner could rewrite the PR on his sandpaper episode and everything else if he manages to drag Australia over the line when the rest of them can't score runs. Coming back with a groin that might snap any minute, can't move side to side, and if he just bats on one leg for his 100, and he's a good PR man, David Warner. You must say, with respect.
Shout out to Roxy.
Yeah, big shout.
Well, loath am I to, double up with the same thing I said in the Channel 7 show yesterday. But it was but a year ago when David Warner scored 335 runs opening the batting for Australia, and people were like, went past Bradman. He'd fucking kill for 35 now. They're only 335.
Yeah, a bit flat.
It was a bit flat, actually.
Disrespectful runs.
He scored that against a pink ball. That's worth fucking 800.
Oh, I reckon the selections for this match are absolutely fascinating because, previously in Australian cricket, selections have always been made with a certain investment in mind.
What's next?
Investments that were possible because someone was dominating with the bat. Someone's dominating so you can kind of afford to bring in a Travis Head, for example, and maybe absorb some underwhelming performances for a while because it's not really affecting the bottom line of runs and wickets and the team is winning.
Yeah.
But for the first time in a really long time, I feel like Australia needs to select a team to win now.
Yeah.
Who's going to win now?
Got to win this one.
It's not who's going to possibly win, blood them a little bit, and they'll pay off later down the track. Like we pointed out last week, the fear of dropping Head is the system means that he might go to to purgatory for a long time and how does he get back? I don't think that has to be the way with Head. I think he could still be next cab if he comes off. But it's like, for the first time in a long time, it's like, how do we win this match? And what lineup do they go with for that? And I feel like India has had such a comprehensive stranglehold on Australia's batters for the last two games that it's almost required that Australia give them different problems to solve. Give India different problems to solve. Bringing in new people may not be the worst thing because the other guys feel worked out. The player who feels least worked out is Cam Green, and it may be because they just haven't seen as much of him. But the rest of the guys have been... they've been done over so far, and Australia has to do something different to get over the top of Bumrah and Ashwin. Because from what I've seen in the first two tests, they've just dominated as soon as they've come to the crease. Something has to change. Does Steve Smith have a plan B? Sorry for the pure cricket chat. Yeah, it's good. It's a good series.
Well, what's obviously going to happen is Warner will be nicked off by Bumrah coming around the wicket.
100%.
and then we'll be like, what next?
Poor old Pekovsky scored Park 2500s, and now he's got to face Ashwin coming in fucking weaving and bobbing from 6'3", bowling fucking cobras.
Well, that's if he even makes it to Ashwin.
Exactly.
Ashwin could take the new ball, to be fair.
Yeah.
They just do a weird shit where we're like, nah, you're not bowling.
And they've lost Yadav, so there's going to be another player coming as well.
Yeah.
But it's still those two
He'll
guys.
be good.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll be
He'll
good.
be good. Yeah. Billion people.
So anyway, we need to... Who are the best six to win this one-off game?
I take your point that maybe there's got to be a new thing.
A new problem to solve. It's in football, like a new system or new tactics or a new formation. You literally have to give India something else to sort out and to do their homework on, which is why Pekovsky might actually be a handy selection in pure cricketing terms, let alone all the philosophical and medical issues around his head, which aren't insignificant.
We've got to win now. You sacrifice him.
Mate, that's why I say these could be the most righteous runs of all time.
Yeah, true.
I mean, someone like Will Pekovsky could come in with all these heroes that he's grown up watching, struggling to play India. What if he makes 100 on debut? Could be one of the most... in front of nobody, in the pandemic time, they will call it.
Yeah, they will.
Warner on a thin, almost snapped groin, doing the same thing. Or will they all just nick off?
It's one of those two things. Well, mate, I don't know. Do you think Australia's going to win this game? My instinct is every time Australia plays in Australia, they'll win the game.
Yeah, no, that's my expectation. As soon as I turn it on, I see the teams on screen. As soon as Bumrah comes into bowl, well, not Bumrah actually. When he comes into bowl, I'm like, I don't know, how do they play this?
Yeah, but every time I see a baggy green with the SCG, the latest, I know they'll win this game.
Yeah, exactly.
They win this game.
Change the anthem, but
I feel like the underlying thing of the worry about Australia's batting woes is because they've been pinned, and there's a thing of we could lose again and we don't have the excuse because India are literally missing 6 players now. Yeah. And they feel like they're right on top here, that they could win the game.
Have you noticed that in attempting to analyse why Australia have been so choked by India, there's just a few calls coming out now for we need to be a bit more alpha. We need to show a bit more intent.
Oh, yeah.
We need to, like, even Smith is saying, like, I've never let a spinner dominate me like this. Just those, like, little demonic cries, from in the deep subconscious of the Australian saying, time to get alpha again, boys.
Getting that front dog.
Time to fucking front dog and time to bump these cunts. Suck it up, India. It's fashion. When
we're back, baby.
When Lehman emerged out of the Mickey Arthur era, where it became all about teaching and education and nice guys, and Cowan facing 100 balls and stuff like that, I was like, no, we just need to get out there and give them a whack and move the game forward.
Yeah.
Look where that took us. That took us to sandpaper. So then we did Amazon PR stunts and became nice and shook hands before the game and talked about babysitting. Now we're in a bit of trouble, and now the calls will come out. Let's start front dogging these guys. Let's get Davey back. Let's start pushing them, turning twos into threes. Let's fucking hit Ashwin back over the top of his head. No one said that, but I'm just adding that to the for the sake of the argument.
Well, I like it, and I think that's
and I like it, and I feel good.
I feel good about that. So Australia will win this series 3-1.
Exactly, 3-1. That's what I think will happen. Would you pick head? What's your six? Yeah, 6. Okay, so who misses out?
Pekovsky. Whoa, hang on a sec. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Pekovsky, Wade, and Head. 3 after going to 2.
3 got to go into 2. Pekovsky is opening the batting for me.
Wade v Head for 5.
Yeah, okay, then when Matt Wade's batting 5 for me.
Okay.
Because I think he's more likely to score 70.
And you know what? I think that's okay too. I'd have that side for this match.
But I like Travis Head.
I like Travis Head, but guys can get dropped. He averages 30 when you take away Sri Lanka runs, which is not fair to take away the runs because he scored them.
Yeah.
But I'll do it anyway, again for the sake of argument.
Yep.
He hasn't dominated the position. That's what happens in the Australian Test side. You get dropped if you don't absolutely nail it down.
I think if Australia didn't have to win this game, I'd go longer term.
Yeah,
I want,
exactly.
But Wade
looks a better prospect for runs now.
Yes. So I want Wade now. And Cameron Green, he just looks good.
Good effort for Pekovsky to be able to come in with 0 test caps and just unseat fucking really hard work from Travis Head over a couple of years, eh? Yeah, but it's Pekovsky. We've said his name heaps of times.
He's young, blonde.
He's generational destiny, and we need it.
Prodigal runs.
Got no idea what he looks like.
BBL.
Yeah, now we're talking.
Now we're talking the real stuff. Now the Sixers are leading the competition, Pez. I think that looks the best outfit.
Thunder look good, both in terms of their male attractiveness and the way they play.
Well, Calum Ferguson's on the show, about to speak to him in a moment's time. Good chat as well.
Yeah, really good chat.
Good
talker.
Yeah. I mean, the thing I found about the Big Bash now is that, like, I don't have, like, the emotional connection to a team. And so, like, I feel a little bit...
Have you ever?
No, I haven't.
Yeah.
No. And that's probably why I haven't fully invested in, like, the IPL, the Big Bash. Like, T20, international T20 tournaments, like, I'll go for the team that I live in. Go for that team. But the Big Bash, it just feels like it's all moving parts and it's all just a bit...
I'll ask you a question.
The
Possibly
skills numb me. I'm numbed by the skills because the skills are so good.
Oversaturation a little bit.
It is.
Just you don't know when it's on.
It's exactly what that is.
Well, I've heard this actually. It's Grandstand Cricket Podcast is a good podcast. Cowan and Corbin Middlemass, and they were talking about tribalism and whether the BBL has delivered on the tribalism that they want to create. And I think the answer to that is probably not really. But I'm just not sure if that's what they should be going for with tribalism. Like we've said heaps of times, BBL's just on a little bit, really good skills, good players. With the NBA, for example, it's more common not more common, but it's quite common to follow players and not teams.
Yeah.
I sort of see more parallels with the BBL there. Always on, switch it on for the last quarter. If it's close, tune in during the finals and actually follow it properly there. Other than that, who's good, watch the highlights.
Yeah, well, mate, it's interesting because I was looking at if you go on Cricket Australia, cricket.com.au's YouTube, every match highlights like 6, 7, 8 minutes long. Every single one of those has over 1 million views. There's no way that many people are watching it live at the time. Some of them have like 3, 4 million views. So that's how people are engaging in the Big Bash. They want to watch it because it's cricket and it's on. The skills, as I say, are fucking amazing. But it's all I'm being numbed by the skills. Who was it who took for the Stars?
Fletcher.
No,
catch?
The catches, yeah.
Spiceman Fletcher took a great catch.
He took 2.
Yeah.
Amazing skills. Fucking Purin the other day. Jason Holder for the Sixers. There's some really, really good players. Maxwell.
Milan's starting to score runs. Best T20 in the world.
Best T20 player in the world. but it's all, I'm being numbed by the skills because they're just like, it's just a highlight reel all the time.
What do you mean numbed by the skills?
Because like someone fucking flicks a 6.
Yeah.
And I'm like, shot. 2 years ago, I would have been like, what the fuck is that? I've never seen that before. Maxwell's reverse slog sweep in that game. Like,
you're desensitized because you're used to the standard. I mean, and that's been the problem with the Big Bash, or I think probably not just the Big Bash, but like people have argued it's gone through this growth phase. It peaked after like season 6, season 7 of the TV show. Yeah. And now it's probably the same in terms of skill level, but we've seen it before. So are we a spoilt audience, or is it incumbent upon the players and stuff to actually, bring new elements to it, which they've tried to do with rule changes, but then we get the shits with that as well.
I think,
speaking for everyone.
Well, I think also a massive problem is that the final of the Big Bash is on February 6th. There's another month and day of this. It's way too long.
Do you think if they reduced,
yes, I do.
20 games or something, you wouldn't feel like it was oversaturated?
Yes.
Like, do you need that time away for, like, what? You mean it should be on like every night, or it should have a night off and then you will be replenished and ready to watch it again?
I think if the length of the season wasn't so long, I'd be more engaged in like who's wearing the table and stuff. More games would matter,
more,
maybe. Yeah. I'm not saying I'd become like #1 BBL fan, but I'm just saying like I'd be much more engaged in it because now it's just like, okay, you're now like in the mid part of the season of the Big Bash. It's ridiculous how long it is.
I have this feeling we'd still find a way to complain about the BBL.
Of course
would. If it was like the same number of games, because we wouldn't know that it could be worse. We would find something else to get upset about. It's just like the BBL has just disrupted what so many, older people understood to be the cricket system, and has all these flow-on effects around red ball availability and shield cricket, and you don't understand, like we don't understand the franchises, and there's new things coming in. It's kind of like it's disrupting our childhood, basically, because we can all call out the great skills and all that kind. And I don't agree with that, by the way, but we can all call out the great skills and that sort of stuff. But it's just a great thing to whack. The BBL, it's right in that wheelhouse.
See, I'm saying that as like we shouldn't just bin it because it's not perfect, therefore bin it. I'm saying like it just, well, I think actually most people are saying it just could be better. But there's obviously a balance. Like the reason this season is so long is because they were worried about the pandemic affecting it. Therefore, they put in a much bigger schedule for like a week or two here and there could be taken out if they needed to quarantine because someone hugged Rishant Pant. So they had to cancel everything. That's why this season's so long. But it's just like a month more of this every night. I mean,
hell yeah.
Tell what really offends me: New Zealand being the best test team in the world.
Yeah, now we're talking. I can get around that.
Okay, so obviously the first test ended towards the end of last week, just before we finished the show. Mitchell Sandlin took a great caught and bowled. Great test win for New Zealand. 4.3 overs left. Took the last wicket. Pakistan doing some great Pakistan stuff. Lost 6 for 30 in the final session. Fucking run outs, going all sorts. Great stuff.
But then,
from them.
They almost saved the game with an awesome partnership as well. Failed alarm.
Yep.
Yeah, Rizwan.
Yep. And then lost 6 for 30.
6 for 30.
So then New Zealand are now #1 test team in the world. This second test is going on as we speak. Kyle Jamieson took 5 for 69 in the first innings. Big rig.
Yeah,
fucking looks
love
good.
that.
Bumping cunts. It's sensational. I love it. And then obviously Cam Williamson's just scored his fucking 18th century this week.
Yep.
24th test century now. Him and Henry Nicholls, big runs. They're leading.
We had a kid recently, and when you have a kid, you come back with more perspective and play better.
Yeah.
That's what Smith and Danny should do.
Interesting. Cam Williamson, now this was before this morning, so he's since pushed on, but Cam Williamson's last 22 innings, he scored 1,573 runs at 82. Not bad.
Who was he playing?
Well, poor old Naseem Shah, he's not really 16. He's going at 5 and over, none for 110 off his 20 overs or some shit. It doesn't look great for Pakistan. But New Zealand are so good at home.
Got to hand it to New Zealand, man.
Also, they fucking smashed India. How do they do that?
Yeah, well, the Australian reflexive mind immediately reflexes.
They've got second graders playing in that team.
All of that sort of stuff, yeah. Cricketers have to do so much to be trusted over about 10 to 15 years. Again, it's the Steve Waugh theory. Soon anything New Zealand does, it's going to be, well, who was it against? Oh, where was it? Oh, against that mob. Oh, they don't play well away. Okay. The guys are like literally nearly #1. They win at home all the time. They do beat good opposition. They've made the last 2 World Cup finals. And they do it with about fucking 3 people in the country.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Well, that
Still second grade, but
it doesn't explain how second grade they are. That UAE series where Australia lost handsomely.
was a handsome loss.
That was a series where Kawaja saved the test match, got 180 or whatever. Great result. And then New Zealand played like the week after, then they beat them 2-0. That was in the
we always
UAE.
think, well, they're just not trying. Everyone gets up for Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There, that must be it.
That must be it.
I don't understand. I think it'd be a great series, Australia, New Zealand in New Zealand. Because New Zealand came here last summer, right? And it was one of the dullest summers we've had in ages.
Would it be great? Australia, I believe, tends to destroy New Zealand in New Zealand.
I expect us to go there and win 8-0 in a 2-test series.
It's just out of sight, out of mind. Like, we just respect those who beat us and we disrespect those who we beat all the time. It was like when I was in the UK talking with some English guys about who was better out of Kohli and Tendulkar, and there's like, Kohli easy. Because Tendulkar didn't score that many runs against England. They just didn't see it, you know? It's like, oh, but he killed us.
It's a bit like, slightly different, but like Gavaskar runs. He's got 10,000 test runs
Out
too.
of sight, out of mind.
Which one's that? It's just fucking, yeah. Oh, well. Muhammad Abbas was good in the UAE, wasn't he?
Yeah, nibbling it away. Really good player. Wasn't he? Played well against us once or twice 2 years ago.
But then when he came to Australia last year, like he bowled 3 balls, the key was up to the stumps and he was injured. And he's bowling like 105 Ks and you're like, oh, okay.
Got it.
I recognise this now.
Yeah.
Mate, 4s.
Good bowler.
Hey, South Africa's absolutely dominating Sri Lanka. No one really cares about that. I mean, Quinton de Kock, he won the first test. They're in the second test now. They won the first test. Quinton de Kock won his first test as captain. He said there's no easy wins in test cricket. They won that game remarkably easy. There's this guy, Norkia, who's bowling fucking rapid for South Africa.
Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, apparently.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He bowls wheels. Apparently he signed a Colpack deal with South African cricket, so he's not fucking off to England like heaps of other players recently have done from South Africa. So
he's staying in South Africa.
staying.
I watched him bowl the other night, and you're totally right. And the wicket looked fast.
Yeah.
He was probably bowling against guys who would have been afraid of him.
Yeah.
No shame in that with how quick he was bowling. Ball slapping the gloves hard. He was in Ponting's IPL side as well.
Yeah.
So, Ponting likes him.
Yeah.
So, therefore, we respect that.
Interesting, yeah.
Rabada, 12th, man,
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
But this guy is good gear.
Yeah.
And Australia is set to go to South Africa in a month or two's time.
If we fancy it.
If we fancy it in the hierarchy of
when
Australian cricket.
When India says we won't go with them, we're like, what the fuck is this? Hey, Afghanistan, you want to play? I wouldn't have thought so. We're not going to play against Afghanistan.
But
Bangladesh, no,
I mean,
thank you.
speaking again of good matchup series, Australia, South Africa, and South Africa. Every time we play South Africa, it's good because it's just two wild, toxically masculine alpha dogs playing on fast, bouncy wickets.
The Sandpaper series is one of the greatest things of all time. just because it was like, they out-cunted us.
Yeah. And that's what they know that's
Fucking respect.
When New Zealand come here, they try and become friends with us.
Yeah, wrong.
That's right. And also they're just second graders, but South Africa go the other way, and it always leads to something funny. You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
And I want this guy Norkie,
Yeah.
to bowl his wheels. I want Rabada back.
Yeah.
The whole thing. The wickets looked quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so look at the fucking whites of our eyes. Our eyeballs are popping out of our heads just talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
I don't want any Ashwin stump to stump.
Flicking them down there.
Flicking them down there. Yeah, okay, I need some precision and technical skill. Let's just start bumping. Let's start hooking. Let's feel something
I want
again.
Faf Duplessis doing a 2K time trial, had his shirt on. I want fucking Quinton de Kock riling Warner up in Durban.
I want Machismo. I want the Machismo series.
I want our off-spinner dropping the ball on AB de Villiers' head.
Exactly.
More of that gear. Bring it back. Hope it's fast at the SCG this week.
Me too.
Won't be. I was thinking about that series, that's like Sri Lanka, South Africa series, right? Do you, actually same as like Pakistan, New Zealand. So basically like anyone outside the three teams that play Test cricket. If South Africa, Sri Lanka are fucked with injuries, so they're really weak at the moment. But like if that series was 1v2, would we be like, this is good cricket?
We would if either of those teams had beaten us recently.
So we put ourselves in the story.
If they had players that we were like, he's a good player, he's a good cricketer. Yeah, we've got to insert ourselves into the story, of course. Yeah, we would. But otherwise, no. We don't respect anybody that we defeat. That's the theory. Regularly.
Even players who are good in Australia, we'd like Asad Rauf last year, who was playing for the Stars. And then got himself into Pakistan.
He really moves it around.
T20 side. He played second grade at West.
West, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he was an overseas player, so he had to start in twos to,
Yeah. Good.
Maybe stripes.
Probably worth. Okay, Pez, we're speaking to Glenn McGrath, but first, Calum Ferguson. And of course, this is brought to you, as ever, throughout this summer, our pandemic summer, by Ponting Wines. We can use the code GETAFEW, which will get you 10% off the price of a case. Pez and I have had our case of Getafews.
Well, I notice you've still got Close of Play on your kitchen bench. A nice red.
Mate, they're really good. I'm really impressed.
Are you saving that one?
I guess so. No, it's half empty or half full.
Oh, is it? Pardon me.
Yes.
Thought you might be saving it for, Will Pekowski's debut 100 at the SCG because you're a sentimental little. Really?
Fucking hell. Jesus Christ. Ponting Wines have been very good to us, and we would like you to be good to them. Use the code GETAFEW.
And their product will in turn be good to you. So
it'll get around you.
Everyone's getting around each other. It's capitalism.
Also, it's good for a little Instagram post. Little Ponting Wines. Things are going well, are they? That kind of gear.
If you asked me 15 years ago if you would associate the name Ricky Ponting with red wine, I would have said he was more of a beer guy. But isn't he in his wonderful blazer and with his analysis and just general gravitas comfortably associated with a wonderful red or crisp white?
Yes. I thought you were going to say 15 years ago if you asked if Ricky Ponting was going to be associated with a grade cricketer. Less likely.
You asked me that fucking 5 months ago.
Thank you very much to Ponting's Wines. Getafew is the code for 10% off the price of a case. Here's Calum Ferguson, and after that, Glenn McGrath.
Okay, we've got 10,000 first-class runs on the phone with us. He's got 20 tons. He's represented South Australia with distinction. He has a baggy green that the rest of us don't have. And he's on the phone with us now talking about Callum, or Cal, to be familiar, Ferguson. How are you, Cal?
Yeah, very well, thanks, Sam. You guys, how are you?
Wonderful. Just look, well, it's familiar.
Used our own names.
Yeah, Jesus. Mate, we did play with each other.
Yeah.
No, we're going very familiar here, aren't we?
Thanks for joining us on the show, Cal. Let's kick it off where we always kick it off. Tell us about your relationship to grade cricket. Now, you're a prodigy, like so many of the people we speak to, a particular prodigy coming through, so that must have been something you bypassed quite quickly.
Look, I was quite lucky. I walked into an A-grade side at Prospect Pirates back in the day as a 15-year-old, very green around the ears, but learnt very quickly from one or two of the senior players. Played in a flag that year, and I think we won a combined total of about one game for the next 3 years. So it was a real chocolates to boiled lolly story, that one. And then made my way across to West Torrens to play with a few mates over there.
Change clubs.
Which was great. It was a big move. Obviously always a bit controversial around the grade cricket scene when you leave a club and head to another one. But went across there to play with a few mates who then retired or left the club within the space of 18 months, trying to work out whether that was on the back of me moving there or not. But I'll assume not until someone tells me otherwise. I think they're ducking me at the moment. But anyway, it's
still ducking you.
It's still ducking me 15 years later. But yeah, look, I've loved the time at West Torrens. I love getting down there whenever I can. One of those close mates does make the odd reappearance, Trent Kelly. I played a bit of cricket against him and with him at the Redbacks and the Western Warriors. He's a good mate of mine, but he's made more comebacks than John Farnham. He keeps putting his hand up for the late season run at the finals, and he's a good close mate of mine and someone who was a big part of me getting to the club and looking forward now, I'll have a bit more time up my sleeve with no shield cricket to get down to West Torrens Eagles and spend a bit more time around there. And I'm still looking to play the one days with the Redbacks after Christmas, so I'll be able to get back out there and get amongst it with the lads.
Okay, well, you've shown your credibility there, Cal. You've hit some real grade cricket bingo there. You know, started early, changed clubs. You've got a mate that's still running around. You're thinking about going back, maybe not. So, good cred there. I just want to know about South Australian or Adelaide grade cricket, Premier Cricket, whatever they call it these days for branding purposes. But a lot of the guys we've spoken to who are guns coming through there did tend to start very, very early. Now, when you say you started at 15, did you have to wait around a little bit to kick off in A grade there? Or, what if you're a prodigy coming through, what was the age you were aiming to commence in A grade? 12, 13?
Yeah, look, I had the big cheese, the big kahuna, the Prez, Mark Cosgrove come through a year before me out at Northern Districts, and they got him in early. I think he was probably 13 or 14 at the time, and, obviously striving for puberty at that point. And, no, they managed to hold me off at prospect until the ripe old age of 14 when they picked me in my first A grade side, and promptly reigned for about 3 or 4 weeks at that point. And then by the time we came out the other side of the floods, we I'd managed to find my way out of the A grade side again, and had to wait till the next season when I was 15. So they do start you early, and they did hold me back a little bit. I felt like it was the right move because I couldn't hit the ball off the square at that size and age. So that was the right play from prospect, I thought. Whereas Cozzy had already had his first beer at 13 or 14, I think. So he was ready for it. Don't worry.
It feels like everyone sort of knows each other, not just in the club circuit. I mean, I think that's sort of everywhere across every city and state in Australia, but also in the Shield circuit. We saw a great story this week about the rivalry between Stuart Law and Shane Watson, who might have been friends at one point, but then sort of had a very spicy relationship after that. Can you still sort of find that level of intensity, sort of intense hatred between two blokes, and if so, who? Or is it sort of, or is everyone sort of more or less mates now because they play so much cricket with each other?
Yeah, it's funny. I think you're right. With so many T20 comps around the place, players end up playing with each other. I see that it also happens at international level. You see a lot of the guys quite familiar with each other off the field. Quinton de Kock and Davey Warner clearly get along really well. That's not gone so well recently, and probably gone a bit sour. But it certainly it happens a lot more these days where they are a bit closer. There's one recent one that I've noticed that out in the field they've started to take a bit of a liking to each other, and that's been Matthew Wade and Jake Weatherald out in the middle. Really supporting each other whilst out in the middle, and not pretty comfortable to tell the odd joke about each other, suggesting that neither of them are great players in big games, and some have played well in. It's been interesting. I'm not sure it's so friendly as I'm making it sound, but it's funny how everyone is so much closer these days, and I probably would suggest that some of the real anger and bitterness and the gripes probably aren't quite there where they used to be, but there's just the odd occasion where I think because it doesn't happen quite as regularly, I think the guys go a little bit harder than what they might have at times back in the day. Obviously, the Stuart Law and Jimmy Marr and Shane Watson is probably an extreme version. I reckon that might have been some skin loss from both sides there. But look, I think it's less likely to be quite as regular these days.
Yeah. In Stuart Law's defence, he did say that despite many days of abusing him, he did offer him a beer. So there was a beer, and so when Watson said no to all that, that's
all the wrong stuff.
Exactly.
I mean, that's all above board. Yeah, exactly. No, as long as there's a beer at the end of it, we're good.
I'll hand you a beer and thus compensate for everything that I've done. Well, maybe
all that personal stuff. No, don't worry about that.
About your family.
We've got a frothy now.
We're going to drink alcohol. But maybe the rivalries have just shifted on to the BBL, Cal, because you're with the Thunder. They're looking really good. You guys are looking really good. And I don't just mean performances like Ollie Davies and Sam Billings, Ben Cutting, all very attractive men. That's what I mean. Looking good.
What about the flowing locks that Ollie's got going on at the moment? It's just magnificent.
Real 70s vibe to it as well. Yeah, it's a really good thing that he's doing there.
Yeah, he loves his surfing as well. So there's plenty of photos on his social media of him with his top off, and he's got the flowing locks. Rather self-indulgent, some of his teammates would suggest, but I love it. I think it's fantastic.
So you look at complete team, and then I see last night, Bilbo, our mate Bilbo, he gave it to Mark Steckety, who in turn was like clapping in Ollie Davies' face or something when he got him out. So I guess my question is, why are the Brisbane Heat so full of questionable blokes?
Oh, look, Bilbo's a good judge. No, look, it's all fun and games out there, isn't it? And that's probably, that's exactly what we like to see from our side of things. If one of the opposition is picking on our youngest player, not taking on the big guys and the big dogs like Bilbo, then those big dogs will really get in their face and let them know about it. So we'll look to see whether Steckers takes on one of our older players next time.
Which overseas player, in the 10 years that you've been playing the BBL and in its entire existence, which overseas player do you think has been the best value? Like a Shahid Afridi maybe, or a Gale, or any Bairstow stories knocking about?
In my team, in teams that I've played in, or just what I've seen in the competition.
Both.
I think in the comp for mine. Yeah.
I liked what Shahid Afridi brought early on. That was he came across and played with the Redbacks before it became franchise, and so he really was part of the foundations of the Big Bash. I thought, getting over here, bowling fast leggies, hitting big sixes, eating cricket balls. It was just it was all happening with Shahid, and he just brought so much, not just on the pitch, but off the pitch, real rock star mentality and look to him as well. He had the big aviators on, floating through the airports. Yeah, we always, it's a bit of an alpha move, that, isn't it? A real power move to wear the sunglasses inside.
100%.
Bilbo, Bilbo, our mate Bilbo, pulled that exact power move off in his first team meeting. He was, in the dungeon underneath the grandstand at the Gabba the other night, and just pulled the sunglasses out and whipped them on in the middle of the team meeting. And Usman Khawaja, a very sharp operator, Usman, he jumped all over it and let him know all about it. The very next day, though, Usman was floating through the airport, and I spotted him from about 15 metres away, and I said, "Oh, no, he hasn't." Went straight over to Bilbo and said, "Just have a look over my right shoulder here, mate, and you might spot something you like the look of." And Bilbo saw Usman floating through the airport with the darkest, biggest pair of sunglasses you will ever see. And he jumped all over him and gave it to him for about 24 hours. But, it's always interesting watching guys and the impact they have as an overseas player. Shahid Afridi brought plenty.
You guys really are going mad in the bubble. Just on the BBL still, Cal, we saw the other night, I've got a routine new rules question, which I'm sure you've had none of up until this point. But you see the Scorchers Renegades. Scorchers make 185. Renegades lose 3 wickets early in the second innings, and so they just go for the bonus point. They lose the cricket match by 100 runs and walk away with the point. Yeah. Is it the funniest and therefore best point of all time?
Look, if you're creating these rules and implementing them, that's exactly what they're looking for, aren't they? They must be looking for enormous blowouts where there's guys chasing down the 1 point and falling short by 120. That's what they're looking for, isn't it? I've got no idea. I mean, look, it is an interesting new rule, and you'd hope it's not too often a side in that scenario. Unfortunately, the Renegades have found themselves in that situation a couple of times now, and it's not. It doesn't always end up pretty, does it? It looks good when you get the point, but when you're 9 down, and you lose your next wicket at 10.1 overs and you lose the game by 100, it doesn't look as nice then, does it?
Sing a quarter of a team song as well. There's all sorts of fun you can have with it.
Obviously, it was nice to see Joe Burns back in the runs last night. I actually noticed in your last innings for South Australia, you obviously got 97, and then Joe Burns was the first guy to sort of run over to you and shake your hand. He's obviously a remarkably popular guy around the circuit. I mean, what do you think Joe will be at with his game and how he'll be feeling at the moment? Obviously, after a pretty publicised, dropping of the side, I guess.
Yeah, look, clearly I've got a few people fooled if he's thinking that, and so many are thinking I'm a decent bloke. But look, he's a fantastic cricketer. It's certainly been a tough run for him. It's a dark place when you're not making runs. And look, he's a guy that I'm hoping will bounce back really strongly because he's a guy that does have a lot to offer that Australian team at the top of the order. He takes the game on, he plays his shots, and that's probably where you sometimes see guys when they're starting to struggle. Or in all seriousness, they probably just stop playing their shots. They stop looking to score quite as much as they usually do. And I feel like he's a guy that will benefit a lot from what happened last night. He batted really well. He took the game on, which is exactly what we're used to seeing from Joe. So I'm confident he'll bounce back hard and hopefully he gets back into that baggy green at some stage.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that more broadly, Cal, because you've had some experience with this as well. In Australia's Test top order at the moment, there's some discussion and suggestion that Travis Head might make way for Bukowski coming in. And there's this sort of folklore around Australia that great players get dropped and then they come back, you know, Ponting, the Wars, Michael Clark, etc. And so the theory goes that if you get dropped, you'll go away and, as Shane Warne suggested recently, score some runs in Shield that's not on and come back a better player. So, like, you know, as someone's experienced this, like, you know, how are players meant to do that these days when there's no red ball cricket? And what's that experience like?
Yeah, look, that's tough. I mean, you're desperate to turn things around. You get left out. You just want to get back in there and get back on the horse, and you're just desperate for that next hit. You know, for Joe, it's a really tough one. You know, there's no Shield cricket for the next 6 weeks, 5 weeks, and you know, obviously, if looking at Travis now, if he was to find his way out of the side, which I strongly believe he shouldn't, at 26 to be averaging 39, that's leading a lot of the best cricketers we've ever had in Australian cricket at that age and that number of games. So I think that we stick with him. But if he was to find his way out, it's a long road back. Potentially no Shield cricket for a long period of time. Who knows what COVID looks like at the end of the Big Bash? There may be no Shield cricket depending on how it goes. If things start to break out again. So, it's really shaky ground at the moment. Once you find your way out of that side, it could be a really tough one trying to find it back, even tougher than usual. So. It'll be really interesting to see which way they go there. But for a young guy like Travis averaging 39, I mean, that'd be a big call to drop a guy that's done so well at such an early age.
It must be really funny, like, just when you get your game, like we obviously saw Aaron Finch on the back of some, I presume anyway, he was picked on the back of like amazing white ball performances a couple of years ago. Then he was asked to open the batting, against India without Smith and Warner on the side, even though he wasn't even opening the batting for Victoria. He was batting 5, wasn't he? And I know, like, Ed Cowan said that he became a better player after his Test stint, and could never get his way back in. I mean, where were you at when you got your game?
Yeah, so mine was interesting actually, because I had blown my knee out probably about a year and a bit before my debut, and I played one Shield game and then I made 100 in that Shield game and then missed out in the next game, but only had one hit. And then they picked me for that next test. So I'd really only had 3 hits in red ball cricket in just over 12 months when I got picked for that test match. I'd had good form going into that knee injury, but and then a really good one-day series to start the summer, but really only 3 hits in just over 12 months, maybe a year and a half. So it was a really interesting time in my career at that point, and I felt like I was in good form coming off a good one-day series with the Redbacks and then getting 100 in my first game back in red ball cricket. But it was a really interesting period, and I felt like I was in good form, and then obviously missed out in that test match and found my way out of the side. It was a really tricky, roller coaster, I suppose, of emotions. Being picked, highlight of your career, then down after, then going back to Shield cricket, and my first couple of games after I got dropped weren't great. So, it can be a really tough little period. Knowing what Joe is probably going to, well, I hope he's going to have a bit more cricket to play after the Big Bash and be able to fight his way back in and get himself back up and going. But it's the emotional roller coaster that can be really tricky to handle, and that's why it's really important that you speak to people around you and make sure that you don't get too insular. Obviously in grade cricket land, we don't talk about any of our frailties to any of our teammates, do we? We make sure we stand at the back of the net and say, "Oh, mate, come on, you got to let that one go," or "Come on, mate, come on, take that short ball on. Come on, what are we ducking that for?" But certainly, for someone like Joe, it's going to be really important that he does speak to the people around him, keep himself amongst his teammates, and try and find himself again, because it is a really tricky period where there's a lot of distraction and you can start worrying about a lot of external noise. He's just got to get back to worrying about making runs and playing in the manner that he did last night, where he took the game on, and I think that'll be the start of it for him.
Have you forgiven Steve Smith for running you out on your debut?
Of course I have. It wasn't his fault, mate. He was ready for the second, and I looked up and thought, yeah, there's another one there. So I called yes, and as I went to push off, my back foot slipped a little bit on me, and that was probably it for me. There wasn't a lot in it, but it certainly wasn't Steve's fault. Just one of those things, guys. You look back on it and just wish you'd said no, but that's the game, isn't it?
I can feel the pain. I'm just thinking about it now.
Yeah, no, deeply embedded.
Cricket sucks.
Yeah, it does really suck. You made some really strong comments a few weeks back around Will Pucovski's potential of playing a test match as we go to where reports are suggesting that he's set to make his debut. Now, we don't know whether that will happen or not. Since you've made those comments, he appears to have, at least from what we've read, passed whatever medical clearances he's required to have passed as adjudged by Cricket Australia, as well as personally feeling like he would like to play. So do you still feel the same way in your comments, that you did make a few weeks ago in relation to Pucovski?
Yeah, absolutely. I stand by them. We've first of all got to make sure that he's in a good headspace and he's ready to go and he's feeling like he's up for the challenge, which is the first step. And then obviously the medicos, we need to make sure that the people that understand all of this stuff a lot better than someone like myself. He's going to be medically okay. Obviously we don't know the full extent of what these concussions have long term yet, but certainly the scientific fraternity are coming up with answers, weekly, and they're learning more and more as we go. But his health is, in my eyes, the most important thing here. And then the next step is, is he ready to take on one of the best fast bowling units in the world right now? So, there's a bit to wade through there. And my concerns are, A, his health, but then B, his ability to take on the Indian fast bowling unit, which is one of the best in the world. Look, it's going to be a huge challenge if he gets the nod. But certainly since he took that hit to the head in the A game against some of India's best, but certainly not their best, where in my eyes has he had an opportunity to get back out in the middle in a game situation, whether that's Shield cricket, grade cricket, has he been able to get out there and take the short ball on again in the middle? And I understand nets. We've got net sessions, and I'm hopeful they've been able to set up some centre wicket stuff. But getting into a game scenario is an entirely different beast. And I've just got some concerns around the fact that he's taken a hit, and his next hit out in the middle will be against the next level up of Indian fast bowlers. And that's going to be a real challenge for him if he gets the opportunity. Having played against him and watched him go about his business earlier in the summer, I was enormously impressed. And he is one of the great batting talents that we've seen in recent times. So I've got some concerns around whether this is the right time to do it. Has he had enough time to get himself prepared with some matches where he's had to walk to the middle and then cop a barrage? And that's my biggest concern outside of his health. His health comes number one, but then is he ready and prepared, as say a Marcus Harris is, to take on this Indian attack? And that's my concern. At the moment, I'd be picking Marcus Harris in front of Will.
And what if I told you that Langer had actually organised Stark, Cummins, and Hazelwood to bowl off 18 yards in the nets in fading light?
If he got through that, then he's ready to go. He's ready to take on the world 11.
Cal, just, one thing that's come up with India recently is, there's the Chadstone 5, and then further notes for, unattributed quotes from guys in the Indian camp saying that, they're struggling with the quarantine conditions and that they're not keen to play. I was just sort of wondering, or not keen to play in Brisbane. You guys have got to go to Perth after spending some time in Brisbane. Like, are you considering just saying we're not keen?
Yeah, no. We're up for it. Throw us in there. A bit like Gary Lyons said the other day. It's a small sacrifice. We're hopeful that we'll be able to get over there and get out to a golf course or two, and we're not as once we get to Perth, if you've done everything right, our understanding is things are a little bit looser than say. If you've been in Sydney or Melbourne, I know a couple of teams had some players that have been in Sydney or Melbourne recently, and those teams have had to stay locked in their rooms pretty much until game time or training. But I don't think we're going to be quite the same. I think Chris Tremaine's got a hot streak. He wants to keep going. He's played golf 14 out of the last 15 days. So he's not too keen on going anywhere that isn't going to allow golf. He's been given the green light in Perth, so we're good to go.
It's just another example of cricketers doing anything other than playing cricket.
Yeah.
Every other sport's better.
Cricket getting in the way of a good time again. No. Go on.
Sorry, I was just going to say, Calum, you've done everything in the game. Baggy green, play for Australia, ODIs, 2009 Champions Trophy, first A-grade premierships, obviously the main highlight. But also you played in the IPL in 2011 with the now defunct franchise, the Pune Warriors. What did you spend the money on?
I was very savvy. No, it's a good question. I like it. Very direct. I was very, very savvy with it. Got some good advice from my financial planner. Bought a house. Set myself up that way. I'm not sure I'm not sure you could quite chuck me in the same category as Bernard Tomic, who's floating around here in Lamborghinis on the Gold Coast. But I was a little savvier than that and very shrewd in comparison. So. Made sure I was, and I did treat myself a little bit, but found myself with a car that had a big beast of a V8 in it. My grandfather worked for Holden's for I'd say 30, I think it was 38 years. So I'm a bit of a bogan at heart, boys. So I got myself a Holden V8, and geez, I was happy cruising around doing laps up and down Jetty Road at Glenelg, and windows down with King of Leon booming out of the windows.
Okay.
That's winding the clock back a bit and showing my age there, isn't it?
That's good.
Yeah, that's our age.
That's good.
Cal, thanks so much for your time, mate. Been very generous, and it's been a really enjoyable chat. Wishing the best of the Thunder and your one dayers with South Australia, and obviously when you go back to West Torrens and play another couple of seasons.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, Pez. A man that needs no introduction, therefore I will not give one. But Glenn McGrath joins the Grade Cricketer podcast. Glenn, can we call you Pidge? Pidge, welcome to the Grade Cricketer.
Mate, that's fine. Everyone does, so more than happy.
I should be calling you Sir. Should be calling you Sir Glenn McGrath in respect to James Anderson also not getting a knighthood.
Yeah, good point.
So Pidge, first question. I want to take you to 1995-96 Sydney grade cricket, Sydney Test cricket, first grade final, Caringbah Oval, as it was called then before the rightful name changed to Glenn McGrath Oval. Yep. One of the greatest matches in the history of Sydney Test cricket. All four wars playing, McGrath's playing, McGill, Bracken, Stuart Clark, Holdsworth. The list goes on. What are your memories from that game, if any?
Well, firstly, it was at Bankstown Oval. But that's okay. That's a home ground of the War Boys, and I think they were a little higher on the list. But to go there, it was just after the World Cup in '96, and coming back, and it was funny. We'd won the match prior because I got hit in the side of the head with a beamer from Brad McNamara to get the winning runs 9 wickets down. So that was an incredible game too. But then going to Bankstown Oval with full strength side, the two War Boys, Holdsworth, Friedman, but we had some, handy players as well in Stuart McGill and Rodney Davis and a few other guys. So it was not a bad game. The fact that I got Mark Waugh out and then bounce Steve Waugh out with two special moments. So Stephen tried to make out it flicked his helmet, but it flicked his glove. And then we went on to win the game outright, which was quite amazing. For the Southern boys to win the grade premiership was very special.
I just love someone with as many test wickets as you, Pidge, just remembering every single detail of how you got the War Boys out in a grade game. That's just how it goes, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, it's you enjoy bowling to guys you don't really know, but against your mates, it's a very Aussie thing, isn't it? Probably a bit more banter, but a bit more you want to sort of get an edge over them, don't you?
So, well, they all failed and you got 5 and you won. So just to now, Pidge, we don't have a lot of time with you, so we don't want to take up too much, but just on the cricket, just noting, and with a grade cricket lens, noting members of the Indian team apparently aren't keen on going to the Gabba. There have been plenty of away games where grade players haven't been keen either. So with that in mind, what's your advice to the Indians?
Yeah, so, well, the Gabba is a game where Australia dominates a ground, we haven't lost in a long, long time. And so that's why I think, teams don't really enjoy going there. I don't think India's really ever played a test match there for a long time. And the fact that they're going up there is fine by me. You've got to be adaptable and play in all different conditions. So, just to get out there and, they've got a quality team. So I'm not sure what they're worrying about.
Pidge, I have to ask you about this as well. There's a lot of chat about the current quartet of quicks and Nathan Lyon being the best ever that Australia's produced. So do you, like me, react to those suggestions by throwing your glass at the TV in disgust at the insult to McGrath, Warne, Gillespie and co?
No, not at all. I'm actually a big fan of this bowling unit. I think they're as good as what we've had ever, really. Just the way they come together. They've been, bowling well as a unit for a long time. That's why Australia's #1 in the world, and they showed in Adelaide what they can do. And that was exceptional bowling. There was just not a single bad ball. And, I look at the 4 bowlers. Mitchell Starc, he's got that X factor. He just, when it's ball swinging, he can attack the stumps and pick up wickets all the time. Hazelwood and Cummins are brilliant. They're just so consistent, just running hard all day. And Nathan Lyon, the GOAT, you can't really fault this bowling lineup, and that's why Australia's #1 in the world. So, no, I'm happy with those comparisons. They're good mates as well, so good luck to them.
Obviously, Pidge, it's a huge test match, not only for this current Australian cricket team, but for yourself and your foundation as well. And it's been a shocking year for so many people, but it also would have hit the foundation extremely hard. And now there's been, it was only a couple of weeks ago, there's going to be 24,000 people at the ground. Now there's going to be 10,000. So, I mean, how do we at home sort of get behind the McGrath Foundation for such a big day and such a great cause as well?
Yeah, no, exactly right. It's been a tough sort of 12 months for all charities, and the McGrath Foundation's no different. But, we've got incredible supporters, and the Pink Test is a special time of the year for us. And with crowd numbers only being 25% or around that, it is tough. But if this last year has taught us anything, it's the fact that we can do things virtually. We don't need to be at a specific spot to be able to hold meetings, to do things. And so we're doing a lot of stuff virtually. So people at home can jump on our website, pinktest.com.au. They can buy a virtual seat for $20 and get their name on that seat. So you're virtually at the ground. There's auction items. The players are donating their signed baggy pinks again, the Australian Test shirts. I've donated a 6-day trip flying around the outback and experiencing the great Australian outback, of which I'll be hosting. I'll be on that trip as well. So that's Outback by Air, and you can see those online and bid for those items. There's stacks of other stuff. You can host pink parties. So there's so much you can do sitting at home and still support the McGrath Foundation. And, people in the past were wearing pink, sitting at home watching the cricket, and now they can really get involved. So, if they jump on that website, there's a heap of stuff they can be doing. And our goal for this test match is still quite, we think, reasonable, but probably fairly lofty, is $1 million, which equates to 7 McGrath breast care nurses, and they'll support over 700 families in a 12-month period. So, we still set ourselves a pretty good goal, but, I think the supporters and there's the people out there would have know someone within their family or a close friend that's been through or going through breast cancer, so they can see the tangible difference the money they're donating is having in someone's life. So fingers crossed, it's big to you guys, to the TV broadcast, to get the story out there and for people to jump online and be at the Sydney Pink Test virtually.
You've done such a great job with it, mate, and obviously get your message out there really strongly as well. So that is buy a virtual seat, $20. Pidge, now look, my observation of you is you play an incredibly straight bat in the media. You look after your friends. You don't say anything untoward. And I admire that, obviously, and you know how to get a message out there as well. But look, I have a crack at this. We have it on extremely good authority that during his playing days, like while Warney was the king in the change rooms and all that kind of stuff, and everyone deferred to him, you were the only person who could ever sledge him without revenge. So we've got that on very, very good authority. You're the only character of every character that we've already mentioned on this show who could do it without revenge. So with that in mind, what's the secret to having that relationship with Warney beyond taking 500 wickets? And what's your view on his Peaky Blinders cap?
Yeah, no, Shane, he's a good mate. We've formed a good partnership over the years, and I thank him for a lot of my wickets because how he bowled at the other end. I think he thanks me for one or two of his wickets as well, which I think is really nice. Yeah, I'm not sure what's happening with that cap he's been wearing. I know he did put it out on social media to get people's responses and how they felt. It must have been positive, the fact that he's wearing it nonstop, or whether there's another reason for it, I'm not sure. It's, I'm a fair way away from at the moment, but I'll be keen to have a chat to him when I can.
just sort of feel like he's the king, and you don't really want to get under his skin too much. And we all love him so much. So we're just sort of looking to someone who's able to do that, who has the authority to do it, to ask the questions that need to be asked. But you're doing that with your body language at the moment. So if you want to jump on YouTube and see Pidge's face while he's answering that, you're going to get the best the best sense of what he actually thinks.
Yeah.
No, he's a good man, Shana.
Pidge, we thank you so much for not only coming on the show today, but the work you've done with the McGrath Foundation. It's fantastic. It's obviously a huge week for the community, not only your foundation, but in Sydney as well. It's such a big moment at the Sydney Test and day 3 as well, the Pink Test. So thank you so much for the work you're doing with the McGrath Foundation. And thanks for coming on the show.
No worries. Cheers, boys. And I expect to see you wearing your pink on day 3 on Jane McGrath Day as well.
Rugby league followers among us, he goes, will enjoy this. Firstly, before I even tell that story, they'll particularly have enjoyed, just on an obscure level, the fact that a few days ago, Queensland Government Minister Tim Mander, former NRL referee, was telling the BCCI that they'd spat the dummy. Now, that might have been a politically unwise move from Tim, but for his personal
That's fucking
safety.
red hot.
Yeah, but given Tim Mander was just a referee in the 2000s, it's the idea of him in or even the late 90s, a Super League referees kit talking to Dada Ganguly. Hope he's doing well.
Hope he's doing well. Respect to Dada.
It's just a nice bit of hipster obscurity.
I didn't realise he'd gone into government.
Oh yeah, big Liberal boy.
Yeah, okay, right. Big old Liberal boy. Good for him.
You would think more Labor would get into refereeing a bit more.
Rugby league,
a bit more,
especially.
I just mean a bit more bureaucracy, just a little bit more rule bound, making sure there's regulations that are to be adhered to.
I guess so.
A Liberal government has a little bit more sort of freedom. Maybe let the game flow a little bit.
Sure.
What's he talking about? Well, what I'm talking about is the fact that the budgie smuggler is always going to create moments and put them on their own smugglers. Like, for example, in rugby league a few months ago, Josh Papali, the Queensland prop, sprinted 60 metres to ankle tap Jamal Fogarty, the halfback from the Gold Coast. He ran him down, basically. And Linny, our great mate Linny, actually commemorated that with a set of budgie smugglers. I was just wondering, what other moments would you like to see commemorated on budgie smugglers?
First one that comes to mind would be Dawid Malan's 6 being caught in the beer and the guy drinking the beer. Now, if you were that guy who did drink the beer, that was it's almost got to the point where it was a bit overshared, but in the media sense. But if you slapped on a pair of budgies, I could get behind that. Now, that moment of that man drinking the beer, because he sort of caught, it was a drop catch and sort of spilt in the guy's beer, right? Then he wanted to give it to the outfielder. I'm not sure who the outfielder was. But then he was like, well, now it's in here now. Now I must drink the beer. Also, we saw last night, who had a 6? Who had a 6 last night at the Gabba? Can't think who it was. And then a guy caught it, young guy caught it in the crowd, and he had like a rum and coke. This is Queensland, Brisbane areas. And he just fucking smashed it, and it was just spilling down his shirt. And it was like, oh, I remember being 18 as well, and it was good.
I've taken a catch, therefore I'm going to scull my drink.
Yeah, what am I going to do? Not do that?
Yeah.
I'm not an idiot.
Yeah, exactly.
So those are two moments.
They're the two moments that you would commemorate. Yeah.
If you want to go league areas, obviously Paul Vorton's catch in that charity game.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, very much so.
What was that game?
That was was it an Alan Border testimonial?
Testimonial.
It was back in the days when rugby league was the sort of winter sport of choice. It felt on the national scale when it came to cricket. Maybe because of Channel 9's involvement. Channel 9 was a rugby league network and stuff. Now everything is AFL.
Yeah.
And rightly so, by metrics and numbers, etc., and culture.
Of course.
Population. So, look, the point is that Budgie Smuggler can put any design that you want on their Budgie Smugglers. It is summer in Australia if you're lucky enough to be able to get into the water. They're great friends of ours. You get free shipping if you use the word champ at checkout. Get creative. budgiesmuggler.com.au.
Hashtag RCDC, Pezzy Lad. We made it. Here we are. They said it would never happen. Anything to add before we go into it? Don't think so.
Oh, not really.
Got to say, I'm thinking about the guys in the UK. That's fucking really grim. Yeah. Really tough news. But, you know, that Schleicher series is starting, so there's that. Moeen Ali's got COVID, apparently.
Upon touching down, he's going to miss the first test.
Grim. Well, this one starts from Mark Boucher.
This is the name of the person who's written in.
Yes.
Mark Boucher.
And the name of this story is hashtag RTDC, the chestnut incident. Thanks Higgs and Purse. This is a story from when I was 11 years old, playing in a club team with older boys in New Zealand. Prior to the game, a group of teammates and I were throwing fallen chestnuts at a tree in some form of archaic fielding drill, whilst we were waiting for the rest of the team to arrive. We bowled first and I opened the batting in the second innings. I had made a solid start at this point. I was then run out due to the fact I was admiring one of my shots for too long, a curse I can say I was afflicted with throughout my younger playing days. Fast forward to the end of the game, I am still simmering from my earlier dismissal, which at this point had been simmering with the lid on for at least 20 overs. I start to walk back to the car, which takes me past the chestnut tree from earlier. Having spied a large chestnut on the ground, I decided to take the lid off the pot. I would like to reference back to my tethered rage metaphor from earlier and put it into throwing that chestnut. I had a decent arm for a kid of my age and gave it my all to throw it into the base of the tree. Much to my shock, it rebounded back off the base of the tree and flew a good 10 metres behind me, hitting my teammate's mother, who just happened to be walking by with her son and husband, back to the car. She hits the deck harder than Nate Robinson in the Jake Paul fight, with what only I could describe as a sound very reminiscent of the Wilhelm scream coming out of her mouth. She was rolling on the ground, crying and continuing to scream in agony. Now, Pez, I took the liberty of... do you know what the Wilhelm scream is?
Just wanted to go to YouTube to find that. Okay.
That's what the Wilhelm scream is. So he's just thrown a chestnut, it's rebounded, it's hit this woman in the eye, and she went... That's how that went down. She was rolling on the ground, crying and continuing to scream in agony, whilst her son, husband, and other parents of players in my team assisted her. My mother looks at me, I look at her, and in a moment of existential fear, I run, ironically to speed, which would have enabled me to safely make the run in my earlier dismissal. Whether this is the fear of what I had done or the repercussions of what my mother would in turn do to me when we got home, I don't know. The funny thing was, I could only run to the car, as we lived circa 40 minutes away from the ground. Following this chestnut incident and my mother's eventual retribution for said incident, I was made to write a written apology to hand to my teammate's mother in person. So, the first practice following the game comes, I go along, apology letter in hand, and give it to the mother, who now is sporting a massive eye patch and has a black eye worse than Mitchell McClenaghan circa 2016 New Zealand versus Pakistan. It travels up across the bridge of her nose as well. I was having hard enough time looking her in the eyes, let alone seeing her in this state. She had to wear that eye patch for the rest of the season, which went on for 8 more weeks. I played with her son at that club for 2 more seasons following that. Still come across him every now and then to this day. So asked TJC, my question is, should I have said no in my run to avoid all this happening? Would my dad have lauded me for having a good arm if he hadn't left early in disgust at my soft dismissal? Should I have used this incident to inspire all my future running between the wickets? Are chestnuts a public health risk? And if so, how do we combat them? Are bales or chestnuts more of a threat to the eye? What should I get my dad for Christmas? Thanks, asked TDC. Mark Boucher.
Nice. Well, I guess my first thought with this, Mark, is that, firstly, let's rule out a few things. Don't go into the butterfly effect stuff around, I should have said no, and then none of this would have happened, right? No, you don't need to worry about that. My first thought is you must have a fucking serious arm.
Absolute cannon on this bloke.
Yeah. He's pegged it into the base of a base of a tree,
yeah,
and it's rebounded at such velocity over his own head, behind him,
yeah,
and a poor mother has hit the deck, such as the velocity of it.
Yeah.
Now, it may have struck her in the eye to the point of such pain where she just was forced to crumble.
Yeah.
Forced to crumble onto the floor. But my first thought is you have a serious arm.
I need to look at a chestnut because I'm looking at him now.
It's probably just a really beautiful size to peg. It's going to be hard on the outside.
Yeah. Oh, it does look good.
Yeah.
It does look like a good throwing
But
object.
anything, like if you peg anything so hard that it rebounds back over your head, so it travels that distance, comes back the same amount of distance, and still retains velocity to knock somebody over.
It doesn't have like a nice parabolic arc to it where it just like caresses the eye.
It must have a cannon arm.
Or he threw it at a trampoline.
And has failed to say that. Even a trampoline, I'd be impressed. But I feel sorry for him because it's an example of the sort of dumb shit we all do as kids, but 99.9% of the time it results in a near miss rather than the worst possible thing happening at the time.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I threw a rock or two. And
did you, mate?
And yeah, I did. And I was a bit older than I should have been doing that. And I still think about it.
How old are we talking?
It doesn't matter. I was not 18. And I remember lobbing a rock here and there.
Yeah.
And I knew better. Yep. And it just missed somebody.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, what if it didn't? You know?
Yeah.
And so I feel sorry for this guy, because really, when you peg a chestnut at the base of a tree, aiming at nobody, and it actually knocks over somebody who's behind you as you throw it, that's extremely bad luck.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Now that reminds me of a story where I was at when I was playing for Gordon, my grade club. They were having I think Vodafone were having like a corporate day down at Chatswood Oval, which is the first grade home ground, and I was helping out, setting some stuff up or doing.
It's a good sponsor for a grade club.
They weren't sponsoring the grade club. I think it was literally just like Vodafone's corporate day, and they're having like a game of like charity cricket or some shit. I think it was more that. Right. I was 18, 19 maybe. And it was like myself and like two other guys just like helping out whatever we were doing. And it was like Mark Holden from Australian Idol at the time was there, who was like guest commentating. They had like a PA thing. And there was like two other women whose names, actually their faces I can't even remember. Okay. But they were like celebrities to like some point. Anyway, one of them was pregnant. Oh. So we were doing, there was like myself and there's two other guys, and I had a bat, and we were like, and then another guy had a ball. And from about like 15 meters away, he like underarmed the ball to my under my instruction, and I was going to nick it to the third guy who was like a first slip. Got a bit too much on it, and then just like went past my mate who would have been feeling it second slip, and like narrowly missed the pregnant celebrity.
Right.
With the cricket ball, near misses.
Near misses.
Yeah, and she gave me absolute daggers.
Yeah, as you should.
Yeah, roughly so. Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose once you've moved past and I wouldn't apply this to you in that situation, but it may if you're going to be honest about it. Move past it, and you might just have, Chestnut Boy might just have a bit of pride in the arm as well.
Yeah.
Once you get past it, it's kind of like, yeah. My son like pushed over a kid the other day who's like a bit older than him.
Nice.
Getting him back for something.
Yeah.
And I, admonished him for it. And so I was like, okay, you're not timid. Yeah, you've middled that ball, haven't you? That's Mr. Pregnant Lady.
Mark.
I'm just saying, is there a part of you that's like, I actually got a good piece of that?
It's actually a nice late cut.
Exactly.
4.
Hope that helps, Mark. Jed.
And congratulations on the test dismissals.
That's right. Jed writes in, Higgin-Pez. Back in 2016, I was invited to net bowl to the Pakistan team at the Ageas Bowl during their series against England. As you would, I jumped at the chance, but little did I know this Wednesday would be one of the last times I would be able to bowl without pain. Irrelevant side note, but one you need to hear. About halfway through the 4-hour, 2.5 hour net session, balls started flying around. The mad cunts had started to have a game of what I can only describe as dodgeball with cricket balls.
Oh, my God.
Wahab Riaz was the ringleader, firing shots left, right and centre at unsuspecting shins. Come the following Saturday, during a game against the MCC team, the right side of my back tore after 1.2 overs, and my season was over. Next season came around, and I was just getting back to full fitness, or what I had thought to be, but a couple of overs into the second game of the season, my left side tore, and I haven't played a proper game of cricket since, which I still to this day blame the Pakistan national team for every time I wake up and feel the pain that is still there. As a 27-year-old failed cricketer, having medically retired from the game 4 years ago, your podcasts have made me want to get back around the boys and turn my arm over again. So my question is this: has my crippling back injury saved me from the world of club cricket, and should I be thankful of or knowing I can't turn my arm over? Should I reinvent myself as a batsman, ruin my Saturdays again, and potentially turn my very happy marriage sour? Oh, and if you're wondering, I was a right-arm medium-fast opening bowler for the Ones at a statue of 5 foot 6 inches with an unexpected bumper in the locker. Keep up the good work, boys. I have attached my all-time stats for a laugh.
Oh, yeah, Jed did attach these, and they were horrendous. Really bad stats. Now, couple of things here, Pez.
Yeah.
What the fuck's Wahab Riaz playing at?
Yeah.
Can you think of a worse pain in cricket than a standing at the sort of bowler's run-ups?
Yep.
Ball comes through, not expecting it, cracks you on the shin, on the fleshy part of the shin.
I know it's rhetorical. The only thing I think worse is, like, apart from like mental scars, is like a tennis ball lightly hitting you in the testicles. Not heavily.
See, like
a light hit. Yes,
the
balls flying around.
The inner thigh, missing the inner thigh pad, fleshy, cold, like that. That stings. Shin is like, get out of here, man. It's broken leg territory. Like a nice egg on the shin. That is so grim.
Ankle.
Yeah. So the fact that these guys are professional cricketers and they're having a laugh. This is how McGrath went over in 2005.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the bit. Well, that's the bit.
It's actually Casper was trying to get a game.
Exactly. Playing a bit of dodgeball.
Fuck.
Pro sportsmen get bored, eh?
Mate, they're kids. They're mentally children because they're like, no, I'm gonna do this professionally. I'm 7 years old and I'm gonna put all my energy into this. I don't need to grow up, and nor should they. And that's why they're my heroes. And that's also why you can't be a good bloke and a good cricketer. Now, the other thing was, should I play again? Well, the answer to this one is that he's actually, Jed has been given the gift of a debilitating injury. So therefore, he has the excuse of like, I was good. He's done the thing where I was like, I was actually a bit quicker than what am I supposed to do? I'm only 5 foot 6. I'm only a little guy, but got a bumper. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that, fellas. My stats are terrible. And I had to DM through my girlfriend's Twitter account. But
You did too. Joint Twitter account.
Yeah.
Hello.
But, he's 27 and he's got a debilitating back injury. I'd focus your pain on that you've already passed your physical peak.
Yeah. Cricket.
And it won't get better.
Cricket, not a good sport to take up following a back injury, I would have thought. And advised.
Yes.
Just the twisting and the rotations. And the straight and the just combining moving forward while twisting.
Yeah.
No good championship.
No good. If you're doing OH&S at a work induction, how are you going to lift out that box? I'm going to do this in this straight-legged twisting motion where I put 18 times my body weight through my front leg. Why would you lift the box like that? Because I'm dumb.
Can I add on top of
No,
your
I want you
theory?
to.
Not only does he have a reason to not be playing, it's like I actually succumbed to a back injury, but the story behind succumbing, which seems a little bit I don't really see the connection, but he's made it anyway.
Yeah.
He says, I blame the Pakistan national team. So ostensibly his last story with cricket is that the Pakistan team sort of knocked him out, which necessitates the question, what were you doing with the Pakistan team? National team. I was bowling to them in the nets.
Yeah.
And so he's got a story. He's got a narrative. Don't add to that narrative. Your cricket life peaked when you played. You bowled to the Pakistan team, and Wahab Ri has ruined your career.
Yeah,
and you can add a few things.
A couple of name drops there.
Yeah, exactly. A few bit of side mouth stuff. Maybe you thought it was a bit quick. That kind of stuff. It's about identity. It's about narrative.
Now, there'll be many people who listen to this who would have had net bowling experience to an international team. Lots of Aussies gone to the UK. I played with English guys have bowled out here as well, to like the Aussie guys or a touring team as well. I remember I got a guy who listens to this show. I bowled Brian Lara once in the nets, and he got a write up in the paper about it as like this portly middle grader who knocked over Brian Lara. And the article was about how the West Indies aren't taking it seriously, not preparing. He was a first grader, he was a really good first grade bowler, but it was just fucking knocked over Brian Lara. It fucks his bloke.
Yeah, highlight of your career.
Yeah. So please do write in if you've got a great story about bowling international players in the nets, or if you've seen other players, other teams play dodgeball with cricket balls.
And preferably if the players have behaved badly, and we can kind of
more
mine
ideal.
that for content.
That's more ideal. Yeah. Or also any Bairstow stories.
Yeah, they're always having a Bairstow stories.
Bez, I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you very much to Calum Ferguson, our dear friend Cal. First time I've ever spoken to him. And also Glenn McGrath. Must have him on again another time. And thank you to everyone out there listening to the show. We'll see the patrons out there on Friday. And we'll see the rest of you guys next week.